All right, here we go again. This is episode 6 of the Preserving Wisdom podcast. And in this episode, I'm going to look back and reflect on my conversation with Kris Hollstein, my mother-in-law, which we had just a week ago. I really took a lot away from it, so I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you've all had a chance to listen to that episode, and if not, I'd encourage you to go back and start there before listening to this one. That being said, I also wanted to introduce everybody to this rubber blue chicken. And my mother bought this for the kids a couple of years ago. I don't remember the holiday or the occasion, but she thought this thing would be funny, and I appreciate her for that sense of humor. So this is something that we use a lot of to wake each other up in the morning or diffuse a potentially stressful situation in the house. So, so I encourage everybody to go get themselves a rubber chicken to definitely bring some levity to the home. So let's jump into the Kris podcast. So one of the big topics that I took away was just living a life of optimism. Do you ever surround yourself or notice people in your circles that are always glass half full? You know, they're always looking up, looking for the good in things. And that was something Kris said, that she looks for the good in things in life, even during difficult times. I can so appreciate that. It's, I think most of us would agree that life is hard, right? The human condition is hard, but having that lens of optimism, that glass half full, and looking for the good things will drastically improve our quality of life. So I love the fact that she has done that. And it almost sounds like Kris built that into her life as a reaction of her parents and some of the sadness in her childhood with her mother, and made a conscious effort to try to look for the good things. So it's a beautiful lesson. It's something that I need to remind myself of. But to be honest, generally I try to be wired that way also. She also talked about living each day like it's your last, right? I look at that as, don't wait to tell people that you care, that you love them, right? Don't wait to apologize. You know, if there's something you need to apologize for. I even use it down to the sense like, don't wait to cash in your Walgreens points, or don't wait to cash in your credits at Tractor Supply, because this may be our last day. So live it that way. She had a quote which I thought was deep, and I still am reflecting on it to some degree. But Kris said, "What we are is God's gift to us, and what we become is our gift to Him." So again, to me, this is kind of a big one. This is probably a whole episode in and of itself. Really being conscious of the lives that we live, the choices that we make, and if we could use that lens that we're trying to aspire to live a godlike, peaceful, prosperous, lifting other people up, being of service to other people. I certainly think it's an aspiration that none of us would be disappointed if we lived our lives and gone down that path. Kris also talked a lot about the importance of staying humble and dedicating your life to service. And this is a topic I think that's come up at least a couple of times, but I know for me, the less I'm thinking about myself and the more I'm thinking about others, generally the happier I am. Kris has spent a lot of her life, and still does to this day, you know, whether it's just service to her family, her neighbors, her friends. She's a really great friend, and then specifically with the church and her grandchildren, she does a lot of things, and frankly, perhaps that's what leads her to a life of optimism. So it's really a beautiful reflection that I took from Kris. She also talked about having the fear of the unknown. And that's certainly something that I could relate to, and I'm sure lots of people out there are always afraid. Like, what if? What if this happens? Or what if that happens? And I know for me, I often build up in my mind like what the worst possible outcome might be, and the scariest thing that might happen. The truth is that usually it's never as scary on the other side, right? She talked about just facing that fear. Like, it's okay to be afraid, but you're going to do it anyway, whatever that it is. Walk through that and move forward. Super important. The earlier and the more frequently we can look for those opportunities in our lives, I think the more fulfilling life that we'll have afterwards. She talked a lot about this, and this is something that to be honest, I have to pray for. But she talked about having just unconditional love for her family. It's something that I aspire to, and sometimes I struggle, right? I love everybody when they do exactly what I want them to do, when they behave exactly like I like them to behave. But to love without any conditions is really a super spiritual place to get to. And I know I've actually said prayers along the lines of, dear God, teach me to love without condition, because it's tough, right? For me, it's something that is very tough, but it's certainly a beautiful thing. So I thought that was very powerful. Then we had her cat, Ollie. Ollie the cat made an appearance on the episode 5 of the podcast, so you'll probably hear him doing some meowing and batting at the doors and knocking pencils off the table and stuff like that. So that was fun. That brought some levity to the podcast. Another quote that I took away, which I thought was important, she's part of a book club, and she described that as giving her permission to read, where we might think that we're wasting time if we spend an afternoon with 2 or 3 hours in a book. By the way, I never feel like that's a waste of time, but maybe joining a book club where you have accountability and you've got other people to discuss, that's a good excuse for us to read. And I'd encourage everybody to do more reading. Yeah, really the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and this was kind of a huge takeaway for me, and I'm a huge proponent of doing this. So a lot of times you ever hear people say, "Oh, don't talk religion or politics. Don't talk religion or politics." I think that's terrible advice. I think one of the issues in our society, whether it's social media or the news, is that we get into echo chambers. We get into groups, and everybody thinks like you and talks like you and believes the same stuff you do. We look at the quote unquote other side as our enemies. And it's just not healthy. It's just not how we're meant to interact with each other. Specifically in this episode, Kris talked about the subject of abortion, and it's huge, right? It's incredibly complex, and I'm certainly not looking to solve that topic or situation. But what I would suggest is that we should be open to discussing big issues, whether it's abortion or politics or religion or war or the government, whatever it might be, and try to be open and honest and really listen with empathy. Why do you think that? Why do you feel that way? Tell me more about that. Where do you think that comes from? I really feel like we don't do enough of that. And I love having healthy conversations with people that don't agree with me. I think it's what we need to do more of. I'm grateful to talk to people that have their own opinions and don't yell at me, right? And don't spit their bullet points, but like we have a dialogue. And then, many times we can just agree to disagree, and that's okay too. And or there's food for thought, right? There's something I need to think about more, or I need to research more. Come back to it maybe with a different, more nuanced opinion. I'm glad that she brought that up, and she was actually a little reluctant. You'll hear it in her voice. I'm not sure if I should bring this up. And I say, always bring it up. Let's talk about those taboo subjects, those hard to, those socially uncomfortable topics. I think the more we can get those things out of the shadows and into our regular social discourse, I think the better we'll be as a people. That is that for episode 6. I appreciate you. If you're still here listening, thank you so much. If you have any topics or subjects or people you think I should be talking to, I'm always open for suggestions. I'm always open to feedback, anything I could do better. please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.